Welcome, everybody. Hi, John. You joined in.
Oh yeah, I was just waiting because I've gotten on before and the studio wasn't open yet, so
Oh, what the heck? Wow,
I,
that was
I'm just
perfect
hanging around like
timing.
a vulture on the branch.
Welcome, everybody, to another live session episode with the Paranormal Rangers. And today we are having kind of a unique show, and the fact that we get to talk about everything and beyond, meaning that from the audience, we'd love to hear your comments
Are you getting her, John? Can you
Yeah.
hear her?
and questions.
I'm
Can you hear? You
still not
can't hear
hearing
me? Okay.
like it was last time.
Okay. Well, I know that sometimes we have these technical difficulties. But anyways, welcome everybody. And the essence of the message is leave and come back in, Stan. John, and it's always some technical difficulties with our show lately.
Oh yeah,
And
it seems like that's kind of normal these days.
yeah, I don't know if it's solar flares or what is it, do you think?
I keep saying look for that unmarked government van parked down the street. That's got nondescript plates on it.
Yeah, due to the organization that we're members of, right? Right.
Right.
Yeah, the IFUOB International UFOB Bureau. But it is always an opportunity for us to be on the show together. Once again, I know some of us have been doing a lot of traveling. This is a busy summer. And we look forward to have you guys share with us at some point what the future holds for you this summer and what you're up to. I'll let John give us an update, and then we'll go into the show.
Okay. Well, first off, I've got the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, that I'll be going to, and that'll be coming up pretty quickly. And then from there, I'll be going to do some filming. And because of the contract, I can't say where I'm going or who I'm going to be with, but it'll be part of a TV show. And then after that, me and Stan will be at Alamosa, Colorado for the Snippy Conference. And for those of you not in the know, Snippy was one of the first animal mutilation cases that was widely published back in the 70s. And so just look up Snippy the horse on the internet, and you'll see some pretty gruesome pictures.
Okay.
But that brought animal mutilation into the forefront, into the spotlight.
Wow, that's some really great updates. I too have a interesting thing that's going to happen next month, and maybe I should have saved it for the next month, but we're getting towards the end of July. I have an opportunity to be on a premiere show on the Gaia channel. And so it's going to be an interesting time for us, and what the messages that we're giving to the world, all three of us. And we do have a message to give to the world, and joining our show is certainly one of those avenues of the conversations that we're teaching people about who we are as Native Americans. So anyhow, let's go into the audience and find out if anybody would like a question from any one of us, or we can talk together as a group, our thoughts about and processes of things that we're doing or what they want answered or have curiosity about.
So, yeah, I was going to say, it may sound dumb, but I was going to ask you to say hello to Captain Planet for me when when you're on the Gaia show. I'm just kidding.
I know. Yeah. I know who that is.
Stan, can you hear us all now?
I can.
Okay, cool. Stan's got all kinds of weird stuff happening around his house. He's got unknown animals coming by at 3 in the morning and growling outside his window. He's got UFOs flying over the top. Just and we got to have lunch together yesterday up in Window Rock, Arizona, and so Stan is armed with an electronic fly swatter now, and yeah, we just got to catch up, so it was a lot of fun.
That's wonderful. I know, I heard. Today was really interesting, guys. So maybe we'll just start off with this comment. But Stan and I were on a conversation today as I was driving back from a project that I was on in the film world. What was really interesting, he wanted to bring up something about something that he had thought about that's happening out in the movie industry. So, Stan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, not only movie industry, but out there where people present and investigate paranormal occurrences and various types of supernatural phenomena. I had learned earlier, a couple of days ago, that Dan Riviera, that is associated with the infamous Annabelle doll, which is said to be possessed by something demonic. And this notorious doll originally came from investigations with Ed and Lorraine Warren, who have since passed years ago. But they took possession of this doll, and it was said to be possessed. And there was a lot of different movies that spawned out of that particular case, The Conjuring and things like that. That Annabelle, I think there's a movie Annabelle, but I don't know if they're. I know they were still investigating his death. He was young. I mean, he was 54 years old. He wasn't that old, and he was out on tour. Taking the doll out on tour, and I think so it was called, that tour was called Devils on the Run Tour, and they would showcase that doll and I guess do presentations and stuff. But what it leads to is that, you know, out there in the world, I mean, John and I investigated paranormal because it was our job. No, we were officially assigned to investigate paranormal cases, and but a lot of people, you know, they tune into shows like ours, you know, that deal with the paranormal, and of course you have all of your ghost hunter type shows and Bigfoot shows, but with some of these things, you, especially when it deals with haunting cases or those involving demonic activity, you really should use some caution with that, because like we've said, you know, if you look at the movie The Exorcist, that is rooted in an actual case and investigation there, involving, I think it initially started with the Lutheran Church, but was later handed off to the Catholic Church, which had priests that were a part of that particular case involving a young boy. But I just like to bring that to the forefront and remind people that when you are out there, and you really need to use some caution with these kind of things like Ouija boards and things of this nature can be hazardous if you don't know what you're doing. And so, but anyway, I had seen where he passed on the 13th out in, I think it was Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, where he passed on. So, but anyway, open for some comments.
Well, it is a questions. One child of mine has a questions. Since Stan's experience with Gray in your home, he has had another experiences himself. He is curious about John's experience too, this child. And like you were talking about, we have young audience of people who listen in to the stories that we share. And as a young child, I remember, well, I wouldn't say I was about middle school, and my girlfriend somehow convinced me. And at the time, our religious practices, we were Catholic. And she said, hey, let's go see this movie, this kind of. So we kind of we went to Cinderella initially, the Disney movie. And my mom dropped us off. And she goes, let's go into the Exorcist.
Oh.
I'll tell you, we were like,
traumatized.
Yes, we were traumatized. My mother comes out and picks us up and she says, how was the movie? And of course, we'll be lilty and, Cinderella is so great and everything. And we had must have had our faces were white as sheets of white. And, Mom goes, I could see my mom smirking because she knew darn well we had gone to see that darn movie.
Yeah.
And my good friend, she spent the evening with me, and we just hugged each other all night long because we kept having these visions of our movie, cinematic moment. But that stuff is real. And after that, I vowed I'd never see another one of those demonic-based movies. And to this day, I haven't.
I have a sister that was traumatized by The Exorcist, going back to when it came out, and even to this day, she's 5 years older than me, and she's still traumatized by that. The images that are portrayed with that still traumatize people.
Yeah, there's a lot of real stuff out there. Mm-hmm. And like Stan said, we were assigned to investigate these cases. Normally, we would not even bother because that wasn't part of the law enforcement curriculum, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But we did our jobs. And one of the things that we did then, and we still do, is we don't let it get under our skin. We don't react to it. When Stan had something growling outside of his bedroom window at 3 a.m, he immediately got up, went to the kitchen, and got a bucket of fried chicken out and ate cold chicken. I mean, this is a non-reaction to the nth degree. But we found out that there are things like we do not recommend. Number one, if you know of any Navajos, and there are probably some in your community, don't ever ask them, tell me about skinwalkers, because they won't talk about it. It's really bad form to ask somebody about that, because once you do, you attract their attention. We don't recommend anyone go out and look for them because these things can poison you. They can kill you. And if you're not knowledgeable what they are and what they can do, we've seen a couple of people that got poisoned by them, and one was sick for over 1.5 years and almost died several times. And the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with them. So we don't advise anybody to go look for them. And yes, we were on a TV show. Our purpose wasn't to look for them, but they showed up. And we recognized it, and we told them, okay, we're shutting things down. We're going to leave because one was in the vicinity. So that's how serious it is to stop a whole TV production. But, the thing about the Ouija boards, we've been told that they're unfiltered portals. And a lot of people don't realize that when you open one up, you have to close it at the end. And you're not guaranteed what's going to come out of it. Could be totally innocent, or it could be something just horrifying. And every young person we've talked to about it in our travels has told us that the Ouija board ruined their lives. So
I've actually seen in documentary cases where somebody opened a portal up with an Ouija board at a very young age, and they never closed it, and they continued to have really negative, even violent phenomenon and activity their whole life, because they never closed it at the time that they did that, and they had to deal with it later as they were older. So
well, go ahead, John.
I was going to say, for myself, since I put my dash camera in, I don't have any UFO sightings anymore, and I always say I'm good with that. However, on a clear night, just about any night of the week, I can go out in pretty much in my backyard away from town here, where it's nice and dark, and look to the northwest, and you could see UFOs flying out there, just dots of light that are getting brighter and dimming out and disappearing. So it's kind of a nightly occurrence. We're going to get some telescopes out there one of these days, but you can see them in night vision really clear. Stan still has a lot of experiences, and like I said, he doesn't react to them. We found out that when you react to them and show fear, it can encourage and actually pump some energy into it so that they can feed off of it. So we don't encourage any of that.
Well, it was really interesting where I had gone this last couple of days up in the Uinta Basin. I was there. I aligned myself up with my girlfriend up there. And remember the photo I showed in our last episode about the portal and the tree? Yep. We actually went to that tree, and there was no hole. Nothing in the tree that was significantly was there. And so she caught a very magical moment. But what was really interesting about our experience, we had a positive manifestation to both of us that whatever opened up came some good stuff, and we both could feel it. It was like a magical moment. I can't describe it. It was almost godly, that feeling of positive energy coming out of that area. And we both looked at each other, and we had tears in our eyes because we felt it together. I go, wow, I've never looked at a photo. And we looked at the photos and we did a comparison. And when we looked at the photo, we both got the same experience. So those kind of wonderful things can happen too. So they're not all bad.
Well, I'm glad that hole wasn't made by a shark with a freaking laser beam on its head.
What were you going to ask, Stan?
John, going back to that question posed for you, you have had experiences that would fall under the paranormal, supernatural, going back to childhood, both things tied to witchcraft, and then also that would fall in that UFO, ET kind of genre. Can you talk a little bit about those? I mean, just briefly.
The incident he's referring to is one where I had a reoccurring dream that in the middle of the night in Los Angeles, near downtown, walked down the street, went across to a park, and there's a UFO on a baseball field up there. And both me and my sister had this dream. Although we never talked about it, we never indicated to each other that we had a dream. And because of that dream, I became I call it a devotee, somebody who's really interested in B science fiction movies, the old 1950s black and white movies. And I was trying to figure out where I had seen something that would have triggered that dream and never found it. Um, so years later, I think back in 2006, we're home for Christmas, and my sister's talking about a reoccurring dream that she had. And funny thing, it was the same dream. And when we got to the part where we were standing under the saucer, um, I said that I remember an open door and like steps or a ramp or something coming down. And she says, "Oh no," she says, "you ran right into that thing." And I don't remember that. I tried and tried to see if I could get a regression hypnosis, but everybody wanted to charge money, which making a ranger pay, you don't have much money. I was saving $40 every 2 weeks of my lunch money to buy whatever I needed. So, at the end, they changed the whole deal and said, we no longer recommend regression hypnosis, because if you're actually confronted with the reality of what happened to you, it could destroy you. And so they're now saying that maybe it's not such a good idea. So I'm good with that. I mean, I can live with that, and I'm pretty well adjusted. I think the PTSD I experienced in my career is probably worse than a childhood dream. So.
Well, it's really interesting. Last night, so I'm sharing current events of experiences I've had. So we went to a restaurant, and it was one of our favorites. And if you go up there, you guys go to the lemon Thai pot. And we had a hot soup where we, mixed our own vegetables and put them in our soup, and we ate. Well, it's under new ownership. And there was a whole block that was for sale, and come to find out that this individual lives around the corner from where I live, and they are the new owner. So I said, "Oh, you bought the entire block?" I said, "It's haunted. The post office that you bought."
Oops.
Oops, yeah. And she goes, "I need it. When I get back to," she says, "to where we live," she says, "I want to walk with you." And it was really interesting. After I mentioned that, I walked past the post office, and it's completely not utilized. And all of a sudden I could feel the paranormal, that something was there. And I didn't want to tell my partner who was with me, because he freaks out about those things, although I tell him don't fear. There are some people that can handle it and some people can't. And I just kept feeling this intense energy coming from that building. And then another friend of mine who I had spent the day with prior to that, she calls up, she goes, "Did you just feel the energy that came from the paranormal building called the post office?" I said, "Yeah." And there's new ownership. So they're going to start coming out and I don't know, maybe visit with the new owners to find out who they are. So, it's always around us. It's just knowing, not to fear it, but to be with it and enjoy it. The experience I'm talking about.
As my sister Deborah says, the paranormal is normal, and I agree with that statement. I think I think families and individuals, so many people have experienced something that would fall under paranormal, whether it's a haunting or seeing UFOs or Bigfoot or whatever it might be. I don't think there's a family out there that doesn't have somebody in their family that has not had some experience in their lifetime. And especially as you go back in history, a lot of people have experiences.
Yeah, so we recommend to everybody to get training or study up on what you're looking at, and be careful. Don't be afraid to step backwards and extricate yourself out of something that if it doesn't feel right. Me and Stan spent a whole career listening to that sixth sense, and believe me, when you get that, your spidey sense starts to tingle, and you say, "Okay, I need to back up here." And I did that one time, and in the next room down the hallway, there was a guy laying there with a gun. and just waiting for me to come around into what we classify as the fatal funnel, which is the doorway. And I backed up, and we commanded him, come on out with your hands up, throw the gun out. And he did. But if I had just went la 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 and went around that corner, I'm hoping my ballistic armor would have handled it.
I think what we fear is what we don't, the unknown. I just heard that comment in a movie. It says what we really fear is the unknown. And if we're not familiar with that realm, people go into a panic state. I was telling Stan earlier, I said, Stephen King is prolific writer who he sat in the graveyard, and that's where a lot of his inspiration came from. And of course, a lot of his movies were made in Hollywood, and of course they have that fear factor. He wanted to get out, but that was in his book. But, just some people, that's their expression of the unknown world. And yet he put fear into it as well.
Right.
And
well, all of us love to be scared. That's why haunted houses in Halloween time are such a big hit, because people like that little
adrenaline rush,
touch of adrenaline.
Yeah,
that shoots through you, and and you just you go and everybody screams and has a good time. But way back in the back of your mind, that this is just all fakey stuff. And, and it makes it fun. I mean, that's why we can go to the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland and go on the ride and laugh, because it's fun. Although if you're a little kid, you might be screaming and crying going through there.
That's true.
So, the whole thing is that we stress always be safe. We had to do some of these things because that was our job, and we were ordered to look into it.
Right.
But normally in our usual career days, we would not do those kind of things. And so we had to study on those things. We had to learn about them. And with skinwalkers, we had to talk to medicine men and understand what the nature of them was and what to watch out for and how to protect ourselves. So very important. It's no good if you go out to have fun and a month later you're dead.
Yeah.
Well, when we talk about the beyond, let's just kind of, we've talked about paranormal, but let's talk about the beyond. All of us have had the experiences of seeing UAPs. UFO was its own, old tagline, but it is now called UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yeah.
And so, people get freaked out about that. I remember at the age of 14, I was in my back living room and I had my girlfriend with me. Again, another moment of being middle school age. All of a sudden, there was this tic-tac object going back and forth, and my girlfriend gets all screamy, and she runs into my glass door, sliding door, and cracks it.
Oh no.
And I called my mother because she worked for the Air Force Base that's there in Albuquerque. And I called her, Mom, one of your ships is out there and scaring people. I was a teenager. It's kind of like, how did I know that? And it ended up being a stealth fighter that was unknown at our time in the 1970s. That was considered, unclassified aircraft. And this thing it was fabulous to watch it. But for some reason, I just called my mom and said, because she worked for a full-bred colonel in the U.S. Air Force Base there. And I said, oh, one of those things that you guys are working on is flying through the air. And by the way, my genie just busted our window, and I'm making this a little bit, hilarious, because a little jovial because those things happen too. We can be lighthearted about that too, and there's humor sometimes in our experiences. So I just kind of wanted to bring that out a little bit too.
Well, I think in the area that we live in, between Albuquerque and Nevada, this particular region does see a lot of not only UFO activity, but we also get, just like what you mentioned, black budget experimental craft flying in the area. And at times people see these things and would there would be confusion as to whether that's something the military is using or something otherworldly. And but I think that does happen. Just like John mentioned earlier, you can go outside, and the one unique thing I think with the reservation region is that there's not a lot of ambient light out here, especially out on the res. And you have communities here and there, but they're spread out far enough. You don't have a lot of noise light, so you can see a lot of objects and things in the sky much clearer in detail, as opposed to if you were in some metropolitan area, like let's say Los Angeles or Dallas or any of these other large metropolitan areas. So I think it lends to people seeing more of these objects than you normally would.
Well,
I was going to say, I've got a whole different subject here that's in the news now. Just recently, they are seeing mass migrations out of Yellowstone. And I don't know if anybody's seen the videos, but they've got herds of bears going out of Yellowstone. I mean, in groups, going together. Bears do not get in herds. They do not do that. They're pretty solitary. And yet these bears are moving as a group to move away. And also the elk have been leaving in massive herds, and also the bison and mountain lions. And they're thinking that there's some kind of tectonic activity taking place that these animals can sense. And they're wondering if there's going to be some kind of
earthquake
or pyroclastic eruption take place. Yeah.
Well,
that whole basin is like a volcano under there.
Yeah, I've heard recently they found magma under the Colorado River, and it's flowing downward into Lake Powell. Maybe this is why the water is not being retained. I mean, there's a whole lot of speculations going on, but I've heard that too. And we were just talking the other day about the magma that they found, and they're stunned. They're stunned that they didn't even know that there ever was a volcanic activity underneath.
Yeah, Alaska's got a volcano that's already showing signs of eruption. And
absolutely,
yeah, there's just all kinds of neat stuff going on. But Yellowstone, they said that if that blows up, because it's so close to the surface there, and that's why they have geysers and Old Faithful and hot pots and everything else, because of all that thermal activity. If that thing goes, they said it'll blow apart parts of 3 states. And
and Salt Lake is like 200 miles away. We would be obliterated. The gases would kill us off.
Yeah, I think they've got you guys listed as a hot ash rainstorm.
Yeah, I'm fully aware of that.
So,
Well,
yeah.
the electromagnetic fields too can cause animal activity to be like that. Like they have that sixth sense where okay, we got to get out of that region. Something weird's going to happen. So the electromagnetic fields, the polarities change, and they have a sixth sense. They have that range inside them innately. Animals do.
Animals have senses that human
Mhm.
beings don't even have. I mean, there's a number of species.
Right.
Animals actually have different types of senses, that sonar and things of that nature. But for me, I think with the Earth, if you look at the Earth from the big picture, this planet was evolving and changing long before we arrived here.
Mhm.
And it's going to continue to do that probably long after we're gone.
Mhm.
The thing is, we come along and we will build our cities and all of our structures, and we have this idea that this stuff is going to stay the same and remain the same. And we find out, like in the earthquakes in Tokyo and tsunamis, and that it's just not that way. I worked with the Red Cross at one point and worked on the Northridge earthquake. And during that time, I was a shelter manager of three different shelters. But I can remember one night when I was working, I was in the office area, and
Mhm.
we were having these rolling tremors and these small earthquakes. And I remember this one night when one of those hit, probably 2 a.m, and the ground. I don't know how many out there in the audience grew up in the 70s, but having a waterbed at that time,
Yes.
not a waterbed, it was as though I was standing on a waterbed on solid ground. And
Yep.
that was one of the really unique experience, because we, in our minds, we have our paved cities and everything, and we have this picture and mental picture that we're standing on solid ground like I am here. And when you have that experience of feeling that the ground almost turning liquid, you realize that there's things like that until you experience it, it can be really eye-opening.
Well, like here in Salt Lake, we were an ancient lake called Bonneville Lake, and it was an ancient lake that was under the ocean, and it carved everything up all the way to Yellowstone. But if there was ever a magnitude earthquake, that would liquefy the whole valley of Salt Lake City. So, the earth does not stand still, especially when she wants to let go and, pretty much release the energy that's been held up. And it was really interesting. Somebody said also the planets might be coming closer. That's an interesting topic. What are your thoughts about that? Maybe it's influencing. I know there's been a lot of sun flares. That
for me, if you look out there in the universe, and especially since we have these new telescopes that are capable of reaching further and further out from the Milky Way galaxy, you see how infinite and vast our universe is. And we have really just begun to get any type of clear picture that is further out in our universe. And really, for me, I think that the fact that the Earth is still here is a miracle, because we're this little bitty dot out in this vast
Universe.
space, and all it would take is just a stream of radiation from some galaxy that would just, it would obliterate the Earth. And the fact that something like that has not happened, or even an asteroid or meteor, or it's a miracle. And so.
Well, yeah,
pretty
one of
amazing.
the things that I can say, because I've studied this stuff from as recent as 2,000 years ago to millennia before, there have been prophecies, whether they're biblical or Far East or whatever. There are prophecies out there that say in the last times there are going to be signs in the sky. There are going to be reports of the frequency and intensity of earthquakes. There's going to be all kinds of stuff going on, and it says that these are going to be as birth pangs. It's like a mother that's having contractions and getting ready to birth a child, and so those are very clear as far as the prophecies that have been put out there by many different prophets. And I can't help but wonder if even Nostradamus looked at a lot of this stuff too, and there's something to it that where they might have seen something in a vision that they just said, hey, I got to warn everybody. But and it talks about the increase in wars, that there, even the biblical idea of what do they call it, the Armageddon. Armageddon is actually talking about a specific place. It's talking about the Valley of Megiddo. The Valley of Megiddo lies in that Israel area, and that place strategically in the world is the land bridge onto 3 different continents. And so, if you play Go, which is a Chinese strategy game, that Megiddo would be right in the middle and a choice place to control. And so it's no wonder there's a lot of conflict over there. But all kinds of prophecy out there. And you look at it and you go, wow, these are thousands of years ago, these guys predicted this.
Well, John, it's really interesting. You talk about biblical prophecies. We talk about historical prophecies. Somebody's commented about the ant people took us down below. And we had talked about the ant people last episode that we had. But what's really interesting is there's still exploration in space. The Jack Webb satellite is now bringing information and images of an exoplanets that are in another solar system, and the moons, and there's planets out there that resemble the Earth. And why are we seeking for that? We're being visited. Maybe that's the solution one day beyond, that we are going to be maybe exiting this planet and go living on our sister planets, an alternate universe. It's so mind-reaching. It's expansive of what's happening in our world today. And, if we're...
Jill,
what's that?
We may have already, as a human race, may have already done that. We may have, there may have been civilizations that had those connections with otherworldly peoples that have already explored that. Mankind tends to think of, especially modern science, that earlier civilizations were so primitive and, as far as technologies and stuff. And, me and John have pondered, this idea that that may not be the case. There may have been civilizations that had even greater technologies than what we see today in the modern world. So,
Well, I've been around individuals who have large net worths who think they're going to get off this planet and live in space, and then terraform some other type of planet or the moon, whatever. You hear about their plans, and you wonder, does it really take money to get off this planet? I mean, I'm just saying we're going beyond. I mean, these are thought-provoking things that we need to think about, because if we're experiencing these prophecies that are coming true, maybe we're done as a human race. Maybe we've outdone ourselves. We created this, and
the military and the government, the governments from different nations are actually actively looking at stargates, at faster than light travel, or FTL. They are looking at all these possibilities on how can we get away from this place.
right.
And the thing is that our planet, yeah, we've polluted it. Yeah, we've destroyed the ozone layer. We've done all kinds of things.
Right.
And the thing is that our planet, to start with, is a corrosive, dangerous place. You land on our planet and get out there, horseflies will bite you, mosquitoes will bite you, the ants will bite you, everything will bite you. Tigers will eat you. There's just so much going on. You'll be taken down by a pack of javelinas or whatever. And,
or you'll freeze to death, or if you were out in Phoenix. Yeah, if you were out in Phoenix just on foot, I mean,
118 degrees.
Yeah, it could take your life,
Exactly. So, Mother Earth has a way of correcting it. Yeah.
And then, as a civilized people, all the way back to prehistory in India, they had flying machines. They had arrows that they shot that would explode and have nuclear warheads. Sounds really similar to what we have today.
Exactly.
And they had wars. And they've actually found areas that had layers of civilizations that got down to the fifth layer, and it was a layer of fused green glass. And the only time they've seen that is at nuclear test sites, where the heat was so intense it fused the sand in the ground to glass, and it turned out to be green glass.
4,000 degree temperatures that do that. But, it's really been a fascinating conversation today, because we're talking about things that most people don't want to philosophicalize with what could be or is, or because we don't know what Mother Earth is intent. And so prophecy, somebody may see something. Could it be a prophecy of the past, and that we're recreating our own destruction? And yet we see civilizations of ETs and things this is the paranormal that we talk about. Are they going to allow this destruction of this world? If it is a special world that we live in, are we going into a new dimension or age? I mean, these are thought-provoking things that I think about.
The Mayan calendar at one time, that was a big topic of discussion, because with that, there was an ending and then a renewal or beginning. And
right.
I think other cultures have these kind of prophecies. I think the Hopi culture has prophecies about a renewal and that kind of thing. But for me, if you go back and listen to Billy Joel's song, "We Didn't Start the Fire," and you look at the words that he wrote, and you look at all of these things that have passed in history.
Yep.
And yeah, we're living in a time where we experience the COVID issues. you look at what we're going through politically in this country right now, the division with the American people, and these things are going to come to pass. It will. I mean,
Mhm.
you look at the time of the Nazi regime and Adolf Hitler, and those times come to pass. And Stalin and Mussolini, and so we go through these cycles, these bell curves of times when there's peace and when people with the human race can get along and work together, and then there's other times when there's multiple wars going on at any given time. And I just hope that, with the younger generations today, that there's hope that they can foresee, getting along with their neighbor. I look at the human race, and it's the differences between the different cultures. You look at the Mexican culture, and you look at what Mexicans have contributed to society and mankind, and their foods and arts and music and so many wonderful things that I think that's the beauty. John and I always visit different Asian cultures and enjoy different foods, and that's the beauty, is the differences we have among the human race. And so I just hope there's a time of enlightenment when people will learn to get along. It's not all about money, 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 money. We're so materialistic in this day and time that when you pass on, no matter if you have money like Bill Gates or whoever, you don't get to take any of that money and wealth with you. So why do you risk, children's lives and war and all of this stuff? We're all human beings, and we all need to be loved. We all need a roof over our head. We need to eat and shelter. And I just think we need to, as a human race, we need to learn to get along and help each other.
Well, thank you, Stan, for your comments. And John, we are coming up on a closing of our show, but we want to address the audience and thank you for being here today. We have had some really interesting conversations of our own thoughts, and the audience has given us some inspiration as well by asking certain questions. But we want to hear from you. We want to know what your interests are of our show. We have had many, each of us are unique in our ability to be on this show and talk about our experiences. We can go really deep if we really wanted to, but the time is not allowable on our show, but we'd love to hear from you. And you can, contact us at nativeparanormalrangers.com and look for Stan's book. Look for Jonathan when he goes off and speaks at some of these conferences. Both of them, all three of us, we're out there. We'll let you know what's going on and we'll keep you abreast. So thank you today for being a part of us, and go out there and investigate. Have a great
day. Thank you, Gail.